How a fragile narcissist can wreck your reality. When you think of a narcissist, what comes to mind? Someone who is arrogant, self-absorbed, and always craving admiration. While these are common traits associated with narcissism, there's a lesser-known, more insidious type of narcissism that can profoundly affect those around them, the fragile narcissist. What if I told you that this particular type can distort and even shatter your reality without you even realizing it? You might be living in their world without fully understanding how deep the manipulation runs. Keep reading, and by the end, you'll have a clearer understanding of how a fragile narcissist can wreak havoc on your life. Imagine being in a relationship where nothing you do is ever quite good enough. You feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells, trying to please someone who seems to have an unshakable sense of entitlement. You can't quite put your finger on it, but something about their behavior feels off. They don't just expect admiration, they demand it. And when it doesn't come, their fragile sense of self is threatened. This is the reality of being with a fragile narcissist. They're not always overtly confident. In fact, they can appear insecure, vulnerable, and sensitive. But underneath that fragile exterior lies a powerful drive for control and validation, one that can slowly distort your sense of self and reality. As we dive into this topic, I'll walk you through the subtle yet destructive ways fragile narcissists operate. You'll understand how their fragile ego can wreak havoc on your mental health, relationships, and even your perception of reality. By the end of this video, you'll recognize the signs of fragile narcissism and know how to protect yourself from their manipulative tactics. The thin veneer of confidence. At first glance, a fragile narcissist might appear just like anyone else. They could be charming, charismatic, even vulnerable. They don't necessarily come off as the brash, boastful narcissist you've seen in movies or read about in books. Instead, they might seem like someone who is just sensitive and in need of reassurance. However, their self-esteem is paper-thin. One small comment or negative feedback can send them into a tailspin of self-doubt, defensiveness, or outright rage. The paradox of the fragile narcissist lies in the fact that their confidence is constantly on the edge of collapse. Their ego is built on the need for external validation, and without it, their sense of self crumbles. So, they manipulate and control others to maintain their fragile self-image. This can be incredibly confusing because at first, they might seem humble and self-deprecating, but their actions speak a different truth. Their humility is a cover for a much deeper insecurity. Can you relate to someone who seems self-conscious but constantly needs admiration? This is a typical pattern of a fragile narcissist, and it's important to recognize how their need for validation influences every interaction. Gaslighting, a dangerous game. One of the most devastating tools in the fragile narcissist's arsenal is gaslighting. If you've ever experienced a situation where you were made to question your own memory or perception of events, you've likely encountered a narcissist employing this technique. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where the narcissist sows seeds of doubt in your mind, making you second-guess your own reality. For example, the fragile narcissist might tell you that something you clearly remember never happened, or they might insist that you're being too sensitive when you express how their behavior hurt you. Over time, this relentless undermining of your perception of events can lead you to lose trust in your own judgment. The fragile narcissist thrives on this because, for them, maintaining control over your reality is the ultimate safeguard for their fragile ego. Ever had your memory or feelings dismissed as all in your head? Gaslighting isn't just a toxic behavior. It's a dangerous weapon in a fragile narcissist's manipulation playbook. The cycle of idealization and devaluation. Another hallmark of dealing with a fragile narcissist is the intense emotional roller coaster that comes with their behavior. Early on, they may idealize you. They might shower you with compliments, affection, and attention, making you feel like you're the most important person in the world. But as soon as their fragile ego is threatened, whether by something you did or even something you didn't do, the devaluation process begins. The fragile narcissist will flip the switch, suddenly making you feel like you're the problem. They might become distant, critical, or outright dismissive. This shift is often confusing because it comes out of nowhere, leaving you wondering what went wrong. However, this is all part of their need to maintain control and protect their fragile sense of self. When they feel criticized or neglected, they will lash out by devaluing you, making you feel insignificant and unworthy of their attention. Are you constantly left wondering where you stand with someone? If you're caught in a cycle of intense highs and crushing lows, you might be dealing with a fragile narcissist who's playing a dangerous emotional game. The emotional toll. Living in constant fear. Living with a fragile narcissist is like living in a state of perpetual uncertainty. They thrive on keeping you on edge, never knowing when the next emotional upheaval will hit. Because their self-worth is so fragile, they cannot tolerate even the slightest criticism, and as a result, their emotional reactions can be extreme. This emotional volatility can leave you feeling drained, anxious, and mentally exhausted. You might find yourself walking on eggshells, afraid to say or do anything that could set them off. Over time, this constant state of fear can erode your own sense of security and stability, making you doubt your own feelings and reactions. This is the real danger of being involved with a fragile narcissist. Their emotional instability is contagious, and it can slowly destroy your own sense of peace and confidence. Do you feel like you're constantly trying to predict someone's emotional state? Living with a fragile narcissist means never knowing when the next emotional outburst will occur, and it can take a severe toll on your mental well-being. The fragile narcissist's victim. You. A fragile narcissist's greatest success lies in making you feel like you're the problem. They gaslight you, devalue you, and make you feel insecure about your own emotions. In many cases, they convince you that their erratic behavior is your fault or that you're too sensitive. As a result, you may start to internalize their criticisms and feel like you're the one causing the damage to your relationship. This psychological manipulation can be so effective that you begin to doubt your reality. You might find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, or making excuses for their hurtful behavior. Over time, this can lead to a complete loss of self-esteem and a warped sense of identity. The fragile narcissist's influence can become so pervasive that you forget who you were before they entered your life. Have you ever felt like you're the one who always has to apologize, even when you've done nothing wrong? This is a typical outcome of a fragile narcissist's manipulation, where you start questioning your own worth. Breaking free from the grip of a fragile narcissist. Recognizing the signs of a fragile narcissist is the first step in breaking free from their influence. It's important to remember that you are not responsible for their fragile ego, nor are you the cause of their emotional instability. Setting clear boundaries, seeking support from trusted friends or professionals, and practicing self-care are crucial in protecting yourself from their manipulative behavior. The process of detaching from a fragile narcissist can be emotionally draining, but it's possible. It requires rebuilding your sense of self, regaining your confidence, and learning how to trust your own perceptions and feelings again. It might feel like an uphill battle, but with time and support, you can reclaim your reality from the destructive influence of a fragile narcissist. Are you ready to take control of your life and stop letting someone else dictate your emotions. It's never easy to break free from a narcissist, but with the right tools and mindset, you can regain your sense of self and peace. Thank you for reading, and I hope you found this article helpful in understanding how a fragile narcissist can wreak havoc on your reality. If you've ever dealt with someone like this, you're not alone, and you don't have to let them control your life. Remember, it's important to trust your instincts, set healthy boundaries, and protect your sense of self. If you found this article insightful, please share it with others who might benefit from the information. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so you never miss more valuable content like this. Stay strong, stay aware, and take care of yourself. You deserve it. The ultimate goal of a narcissistic abuser. When we hear the term narcissist, we often think of someone who is overly self-absorbed, arrogantly seeking admiration and validation. While that's certainly one aspect of narcissism, there's a darker, more destructive side to narcissistic behavior that's not always as easily recognized: the narcissistic abuser. This person's manipulation, control, and emotional devastation run deeper than the typical surface-level narcissistic traits, and their ultimate goal is far more insidious than mere admiration. If you've ever been in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's romantic, familial, or professional, you've likely felt their influence, but perhaps not fully understood what they were after. Understanding the ultimate goal of a narcissistic abuser is crucial to not only recognizing the signs of abuse, but also to protect yourself from their toxic grip. The fascinating and terrifying thing about narcissistic abusers is that their behavior often appears charming or confident at first, leaving their victims vulnerable. They seduce their victims with flattery, attention, and promises of unconditional love or success, only to later turn the relationship into one of control, manipulation, and emotional destruction. But why? What is the ultimate goal of a narcissistic abuser? Are they simply out to dominate others? Or is there a deeper, more psychological purpose to their toxic behavior? In this video, we will uncover the chilling truth behind the actions of narcissistic abusers, exploring their hidden agendas, and revealing how their toxic manipulation can slowly erode your sense of self. Throughout the course of this article, we will look at how narcissistic abusers operate, how they manipulate those around them, and what they are truly after. You'll gain a deeper understanding of their patterns, so you can spot the red flags early, protect yourself, and ultimately reclaim your autonomy from their influence. By the end, you'll be armed with knowledge that will help you not just survive, but thrive, free from the grip of a narcissistic abuser. Why do narcissistic abusers do what they do? If you've ever been in a relationship with a narcissist, you might have been left feeling confused, betrayed, and emotionally drained. What starts as a seemingly perfect relationship turns into a nightmare of manipulation, gaslighting, and control. But why do narcissists behave this way? The truth is, their goal isn't simply to manipulate you for the sake of controlling you. They are trying to feed something far deeper: their insatiable need for power and validation. Narcissistic abusers have a fragile sense of self-worth that relies entirely on external sources of validation. They are constantly seeking admiration and praise, not just for the sake of feeling good, but because their sense of self is fragile and brittle. The goal of a narcissistic abuser is to maintain complete control over their victim, ensuring that their emotional needs are constantly met, regardless of the toll it takes on the other person. Their need for admiration is so intense that they will stop at nothing to get it. Narcissistic abuse is not a random act of cruelty. It is a calculated effort to keep their victim in a position of subjugation, where their own power and self-esteem are continually reinforced. The dehumanizing strategy of narcissistic abusers. What makes narcissistic abusers so dangerous is how they dehumanize their victims. Their ultimate goal is not just to control, but to reduce their victims to mere tools in their pursuit of validation and power. Narcissists often see others as objects to be used for their own gain. This can include emotionally manipulating their victims, isolating them from friends and family, and even forcing them into submission through intimidation or subtle coercion. The narcissist views others as a means to an end, and that end is always their own narcissistic supply, a constant flow of admiration, attention, and affirmation that props up their fragile sense of self. They'll gaslight you into doubting your perceptions, make you feel guilty for expressing your emotions, and twist your reality until you no longer recognize yourself. All of this is done to keep you hooked and in their orbit, so they can continue extracting the emotional supply they need. The psychological warfare, isolation and dependency. One of the most alarming tactics narcissistic abusers use is isolation. They know that the more isolated their victim becomes, the more dependent they are on them for validation and approval. Narcissists systematically alienate their victims from their support systems, whether by sowing discord between them and their friends, family, or co-workers, or by making the victim feel ashamed or guilty about their relationships with others. This isolation tactic is insidious because it gradually weakens the victim's sense of self-worth, making them more dependent on the narcissist for affirmation. The narcissist knows that once you are cut off from your support systems and left in a vulnerable state, you are much easier to manipulate. The ultimate goal here is dependency. They want you to rely on them for everything: love, affirmation, validation, because when you rely on them, they hold all the power. They can withhold love or affection to punish you, and shower you with praise or affection to make you feel like you're the most important person in their world, even if it's only temporary. Creating emotional chaos to maintain control. Another key tactic narcissistic abusers use to assert control is emotional chaos. If you've ever been in a relationship with a narcissist, you know the emotional roller coaster they create. 1 minute, they are showering you with affection, making you feel like the most important person in the world. The next, they are distant, cold, and cruel. This emotional volatility is no accident. It's a calculated move designed to keep you off balance, always second-guessing yourself and your worth. The narcissist thrives on emotional chaos because it keeps you in a state of confusion and dependency. When they create turmoil in your emotional world, they can then swoop in and save you, presenting themselves as your hero. But this is all part of their game. They create the chaos, then offer their solution to keep you reliant on them for emotional stability. The ultimate goal here is to keep you in a state of emotional turmoil so that they can continue to control the narrative of the relationship. The mirror effect, projecting their insecurities onto you. Narcissists are expert projectors. They project their own insecurities, fears, and flaws onto their victims. By doing so, they deflect attention away from their own vulnerabilities and onto the victim's perceived faults. This technique serves several purposes. It makes the victim feel inadequate and insecure, while allowing the narcissist to maintain their facade of perfection. When a narcissist projects their flaws onto you, they are attempting to create a reality in which you are always the one at fault, always the one who needs to improve. In their world, they are never the problem. You are the one who needs to change, and by constantly highlighting your deficiencies, they can keep you in a perpetual state of self-doubt. This constant projection creates a dynamic where you are left questioning your own worth, all the while making the narcissist's inflated sense of self seem justified. The ultimate goal of this behavior is to break you down and make you feel like you are never good enough, thus ensuring that their sense of superiority remains unchallenged. How the narcissist seeks total emotional control. At the core of a narcissistic abuser's behavior is a profound desire for emotional control. Narcissists don't just want your attention, they want your soul. They seek total dominance over your thoughts, feelings, and actions. By manipulating your emotions, they can dictate how you feel, how you think, and ultimately how you behave. The narcissist thrives on your emotional dependency and seeks to make you feel responsible for their emotional well-being, as if their happiness depends entirely on you. This dynamic creates a toxic feedback loop where you are constantly trying to please them, to fix their moods, or to prevent their wrath. The more you try to meet their needs, the more they take, and the more they will demand. The ultimate goal here is to break down your emotional autonomy so that you lose yourself entirely in their world. By controlling your emotions, they can ensure that you will always stay attached to them, never able to break free. Recognizing the signs and reclaiming your power. So, what can you do if you find yourself trapped in a relationship with a narcissistic abuser? The first step is recognizing the signs. Understanding that the narcissist's ultimate goal is not love, but control, is critical to breaking free from their grip. You need to recognize the patterns of manipulation, emotional abuse, and gaslighting for what they are, and understand that their actions are not about you. They are about